Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for June 28, 2023, the Forget the SEC edition. We begin with that story from the Wall Street Journal, which in the Sustainable Business column says the pro-take on ESG is to forget the SEC. The International Climate Reporting Standards could well become the global baseline. As investor demand for a single standard increases the benefits to companies and countries aligning with the new ISSB guidelines, even if they're more demanding. Obviously, this will be interesting to see if state attorneys generals, particularly the magma hat-wearing idiots of the world, will allow companies to follow these standards, even if the SEC doesn't go with Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3. So the fight in America, which would require less reporting, may end up changing the way companies have to report. Next up, from Reuters, Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF himself, has had his claim, or attempt rather, to throw out most of the government's criminal case rejected by a federal district judge. It paves the way for an October 2nd trial of SBF, and he's obviously pled not guilty. And SBF asked for 11 of the 13 counts to be discharged, and the judge agreed with prosecutors that the charges should not be dismissed. Next up, from the Voice of America, authorities in Zambia have arrested the former president's son and daughter-in-law on charges of money laundering and possessing property believed to be proceeds of crime worth more than $5 million. They are accused of owning 69 vehicles and other properties as well. So finally, a little light in the day in the anti-corruption attempts in Zambia. And our final story comes to us from Law 360. So for all these companies that are trying to comply with the DOJ's requirements around clawbacks, this is a cautionary tale, as the ex-CEO of Hertz won a case against Hertz, who had attempted to claw back monies from him based upon accounting errors that occurred under his watch. The car rental company had sought to claw back bonuses because the former CEO, Mark Vasora's tone at the top could have easily resulted in accounting errors that inflated Hertz's revenue. But the federal district judge dismissed the complaint, saying the company's clawback policies and business standards are mission statements rather than standalone enforceable contracts. That's a pretty damning ruling, and you should have your contracts looked at. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.